Dear students, let us begin a lesson on Patrick White's The Solid Mandala. Now, this falls under the category of new literature, and here you have an Australian writer who talks about collective values. So, collective values is something which is very important to note because it talks about how humanity has to be brought under one umbrella with the use of values like patience, charity, and at the same time concern for one another, and above all, humanism. So, here you find that Australian literature represents integration. This is another word which is very important, and it does not talk about disintegration because, as I told you, that it talks about collective living. This is something that has to be kept in mind. Now, you should also remember that Australia comprises of white Australians who hail from England, and they are the one who first made their settlements, and they are different from Aboriginal Australians, though you find that they are the ones who represent cohesion. So, cohesive living is something which is representative of the Aboriginal Australians, and you find that they now face a threat. This is something which is a dangerous situation from migrated cultures because, as you know, that Australia has a multicultural setup. So here you have the Aboriginal people with a lot of oral literature, and here you find that they ceremonize, as I told you, that is togetherness, and at the same time, in a way, you find that they are one who adore a life of values. So, life of values is something which is important here. Now, coming to the life of Patrick White, you find that what is important is his full name. He is Patrick Victor Martindale White, and his date of birth is equally important. That is 28th May 1912. He was born in London, and he died after living a long life on September 30th, 1990 in Sydney. And as far as his career is concerned, you find that he is Australian novelist plus playwright, and he wrote much to the content of the people in the sense that he gave a lot of reading which was interesting, something new, and he added variety to the stock of the body of Australian literature. And that is why he was awarded Nobel Prize for Literature. And remember that he is the first Australian. First Australian, this is something which is very important. And at the same time, you find that he is the first one to receive the Miles Franklin Award. This is also important. And as far as his body of publication is concerned, he has 12 novels, three collections of short story. Then there are 8 plays to his credit, and he employs humor. Then his prose is florid. There's a lot of narrative which shifts from present to past, and then at the same time shift of point of view also. And then there's a lot of use of stream of consciousness which takes you to the inner mindset. So the psyche is explored. What is important is the psyche is given a projection. Now, coming to his work, you find that his first novel is very important. You need to remember that this is Happy Valley. Then he wrote The Tree of Man in 1955. He wrote Was in 1957. Riders in the Chariot, 1961. The Solid Mandala, which is novel prescribed to you for your study in the year 1966. This is something which you need to remember. Then the Twyborn Affair, Then his plays are three in number: The Season at Sarsaparilla, then Night on Bald Mountain, and Signal Driver. They were written in the year 1962, the first one, then 64, and the third one in 1982. And there's one incomplete novel also to his credit, which appeared in 2012. Now, coming to his contemporaries, you have it on your screen now. Richard Miller, he was born in 1961, is an Australian writer, and you find that he is labeled as one of the greatest living novelists who received a lot many awards and honors, and he has these many writings to his credit. And coming to the next one, you have Alexis Wright. He also, you find, is an acclaimed one, fearless writer, and his novel Carpentaria received the Miles Franklin Award, of which you find we have already seen that Patrick White was the first one to receive it, and then his works are here on the screen. The next one of the contemporaries is Tisiolkas. His full name is Christos Tisiolkas. He is the author of 5 novels, and you have it on your screen. You have Loaded, which was later adapted for film by the title Head On. Then you have The Jesus Man and Dead Europe. And he also received Melbourne Best Writing Award in 2006. And you also find that he received Commonwealth Writers Award, Man Booker Prize, Miles Franklin, he also received. And there are good many. He is also a playwright, essayist, and a screenwriter. These days he lives in Melbourne. Now, coming to fictive persona, you'll find that you have the character Arthur and Waldo. As I told you, they are fraternal twins. Then you have Dulcie Fainston, who is the beloved of the protagonist. He is desired by both the characters, Arthur as well as Waldo. Then you have Mrs. Poulter, who is a friend to Arthur. Then Mrs. Dunn, who is an acquaintance to both of them. Then Mr. and Mrs. Musto, they are their neighbors. And then Valley, who is a colleague at the library to Waldo. Now, coming to the novel under study, you'll find that the theme is very important. It is about duality in totality, where you find that the two characters are Waldo and Arthur. They are fraternal twins. They are twins, and but they are opposed to each other. That is why you have the term hermaphroditic, that is Ardhanarishwar. So here you find that Waldo is kind of a very reticent character. He doesn't meet people. At the same time, he has very high opinion of himself. But Arthur is one who you find is slightly feeble-minded, and he also is disabled in the sense that he walks with a limp. So this way you find that the two brothers are totally different in their attitudes, in their mindsets, in their qualifications, in their behavior, in their attitude to life, and together they make two halves of oneself. No? Now the other is you have sexuality imbalance, where you find that the two characters are in love with good many female characters. For example, you have Dulcie, you have Mrs. Poulter, but their love never comes to fruition. No? So here you will find that one-sided love can never come to union. For union, you need to have two partners and both are reciprocal to each other. So here you will find that sexuality needs both the partners engaged in love to be reciprocal. They should be mutually acceptable to the love of each other. And next comes your inadequacy of language, where you find that Waldo is not very expressive. Arthur, you find, doesn't have a good vocab whereby he can express what exactly he wants to say. So he is handicapped in language, and you find that he has language, but he doesn't have the skill to express. So, what you need is a good stock of words, and at the same time, good expressive power. The choice of words, the choice of situation, where to use, when to use, and to what length. Sentences should be used in order to bring out your mind or your heart to the listener. Then it comes to animate, inanimate, and animate is complementary. Here you find that Waldo has animals and Arthur has marbles, and they are associated, they are connected with them. Waldo is connected with the two dogs, and Arthur is connected with four marbles, and you find that they lend some meaning to their lives. So here you find that inanimate uh, falls upon animate in order to derive a sense. Then it comes to spirituality, that what is the ultimate aim of a self? What does a self aspire for? What attributes to the sublimity of a self? No? And what does a self look for? So these are some of the questions that you will find in the novel. Now, coming to the chief features of the novel under study, you find that Solid Mandala is the seventh published novel. This is important. Seventh published novel by Australian author Patrick White. As you already know, that he had won a Nobel Prize in the year 1973, and this novel was published in 1966. This is something that you need to remember. Now, in his autobiography, White mentioned it as one of his best novels. So you find that the author confirms that this is a very well written novel, and that he had put in much efforts, and this has amounted to his satisfaction. Now, set in White's fictional suburb, this is something that he creates. This is the name of the place that he has created, that is Sarsaparilla. And the same setting is used in the other novel, Riders in the Chariot too. This you need to remember. And when you come to the structure of it, you find that the structure of the novel is four chapters, and each is narrated in third person omniscient voice. By far the largest is the second one, where you find that the focus is on Waldo, and in chapter 3 you find that the focus is on Arthur. And you find that these chapters have four epigraphs. They are as pointers to chart what is the course of the narrative. And this novel also uses Jungian psychology. As you know, that Carl Jung was Swiss psychologist, and you find that anima is the feminine self, and animus is the masculine part of it. So together the anima and the animus, they constitute what is whole self. Carl Jung talks about anima and animus. You find that each of us house within us the qualities of opposite gender. So the anima indicates that men have some measure of feminine qualities, and likewise its counterpart, animus, names the masculine qualities. So you have the masculine qualities for animus and you have feminine qualities for anima. The anima therefore personifies all feminine qualities, and likewise, animus encompasses all tendencies that are masculine in nature. Now, whenever anima animus tendencies are deformed, then you find that the person moves away from standards of normalcy. For example, in the case of Waldo, you find that his emotions are replaced by mood swings, then he's very sentimental, and at the same time, he's also very possessive. And in the case of Arthur, because he is a victim of a deformed animus, you find that he is one who loses masculine qualities like assertiveness, aggression, analytical thoughts, and at the same time, the vitality and strength which is connected with masculinity. Now, coming to the plot, you find that the Solid Mandala is the story of twin brothers, Waldo and Arthur Brown. They are totally mismatched, and you find that the two characters are given focus. In chapter 2, you have Valdo speaking about his experiences of life, which are very different when Arthur speaks, and you find that Arthur does not detail every single event which are detailed by Waldo. But then you find that they are totally very different, and when you read them, you find that what Arthur adds to Waldo's description, it adds another perspective to it. So this makes the retelling of the events all the more interesting, because you have one version and then you have the second version. The version of Waldo is something which is controlled by his perspective, and Arthur has a different one. When we'll come to the contrast of the characters, you'll be able to find as to what constitutes the difference in the versions. Now, coming to part 1, as I told you, is easier than part 2, where you have the Arthur's point of view, and he is not able to detail much because, as I told you, that he is feeble-minded, so this amounts to his intellectual disability. Now, coming to Waldo's view, you find that the Arthur's version is distinctive in the sense that it is more subtle, and at the same time you find that it is more delicate in touches, which is not a part of Waldo, as he is cold-hearted and not a person of warmth as Arthur is. Of the two, you find that Arthur is the older, and he is good-natured, he is content with life, though you find that he has very meager living. He is poor and does not have much to make a happy and luxuriant living. And you find that he also does a menial job. He serves as a driver to the delivery van, which is owned by Mrs. Allwright, who is a grocer. Now, towards the close of the novel, you find that Waldo is found dead, and this is shrouded in mystery. Nowhere it is detailed as to how Waldo dies. Does he die naturally, or is he killed by his own brother? And later you find that his corpse is found, and this is being attacked by two dogs, Runt and Scuffy, and they are not ready to leave the body even when the police tries to shove them off, and finally they have to aim a shot at them, and then on suspicion Arthur is taken to jail, where you find that it is indicated that he finally lands into darkness. Now, coming to the title, you find that the novel is titled as The Solid Mandala, because they are marbles and they are earned by Arthur. They are of different sizes, different shapes also. Coming to the etymology of the word, you find that mandala is divided into two parts. Manda. Manda means essence, and la indicates the position of it, seizing in. And this is the essence, or enclosing the essence of which mandala indicates at. Carl Jung, in his autobiography, Memories, Dreams, Reflection, he uses the term mandala to a circular image drawn by his patients to attain a psychic wholeness. So, mandala is a representative of wholeness, which is achieved by the mind. So, mandala is believed to be the dwelling of the god. It is a kind of a protective circle, and this imposes a pattern on a psychic chaos, and gives a vision to the one who possesses it. So this way it has got a talismanic effect, and it is of a peculiar value to Arthur, who you find has decided who to give all the four marbles. And surprisingly, you find that three are different, and the fourth is he himself. And he also believes that the mandala is the entire world. So here you find that he demands that the wholeness of the personality comes through harmonious living. And if you look into the psychological significance of mandala, you find that it embodies some psychological traits. For example, when he gives one to Dulcie Feinston, the blue one, which is representative of the expanse of the sky. The sky is, you find that also an embodiment of the place of the divine, place of the divine, because you believe that sky is the home of God. Then the second he gives to Mrs. Poulter, the gold one, because he believes that it has got sparks, which gives a distinctive a brightness. And gold, you find, is something which is regarded to be valuable, and it is also associated with the richness of the soul. So the second one goes to Mrs. Poulter. Third is colorless, and at the same time it has a knot. Here you find that this knot is indicative of Waldo, who he wants to give the second one, but Waldo refuses. And this represents the mystery of life. And the fourth one he wants to keep for himself, and this has got double spiral. So it indicates both the mystery of life as well as the mystery of divinity, because it is the mystery of life which, through experiences, leads to unraveling the mystery of the divine. So that is something which is a gift in the form of a spirituality when a person reaches the spiritual level. Now, coming to the contrast of the two selves, you find that Waldo and Arthur, they are structured on binaries, they are the opposites, and this also reflects how they are poles apart. Waldo, you find, is cold-hearted, but Arthur is warm-hearted. Waldo is fairly rational, but Arthur is instinctual, and Waldo is physically heavy and short in stature, but Arthur, you find, is comparatively a bit taller. That may be because of the mobility. He moves a lot, and at the same time he also does a menial job, whereas his brother is a clerk at a library. And even though he's a man of learning, but still he's scared of maths. And Arthur is gifted with numerical knack, and he loves to play with figures. But Waldo, you find, is good at expression, but he doesn't use much of his expressive power. He is most of the time tongue tied. He doesn't love talking to people. He doesn't interact with people. He is more a kind of an intrapersonal personality. And here you find that he rejoices in interpersonal connections. So this also shows how they are different. Because you find that Waldo is more of a character who is asocial. That is, he doesn't meet people, and because of this he is misanthropic also, but he is philanthropic. And when it comes to language, you find that he speaks world language, and he speaks Australian local language, and he loves, meeting people, and he uses local language in order to interact with them. That is why he has a better receptivity also. So these are some of the essentials of the novel that I told you, and I think this must be clear to you as to what amounts to the popularity of the novel, the readability of the novel. This novel is widely read, and in most of the higher institutions for PG degree, this is a part of the syllabi, and it is regarded to be a novel worth reading, because it explores self. So, study of the self is in vogue these days, where you find that we are eager to know as to what constitutes a healthy self, a workable self, a doable self, a self which is reliant on itself, self which is worthy of actualization. So, here you are told that only when the two halves, that is the mind and the body, they are clubbed together, they are united, when they are better put to use, when they are complementary to each other, only then the self can reach to its heights. So, thank you, students, for giving me a patient listening. Thank you.